Hey folks, I currently have COVID, so I'm stuck in my room and I'm just kind of doing this just to have something to do. I don't know, I think, maybe it'll help people who are maybe wondering, where to spend their money. So I'm going to be ranking these based on like how useful they are for learning and not necessarily, how nice the art is. I mean, a lot of my own personal favorites are like all art with no text, but that's more about inspiration than like practical learning. Uh, yeah, I already did this on Twitter, but maybe it'll be cool as a video. The illusion of life. Okay, yeah. First of all, this one is like a highly revered classic, and it's one probably one of the first ones that you hear about. But I'm gonna put it in C. Personally, I'm a huge fan of the authors. Frank especially did a lot of my favorite stuff, and I like the history and that sort of thing. But as a practical textbook for learning animation, it's not really an animation tutorial book. There's useful stuff in there, but it's buried among a lot of Disney history and biographies and that sort of stuff. Also, it's animation as these guys believed it should be done, which is also not for everybody. If you're not trying to do Disney character acting animation, to be honest, maybe skip it. But if you are, then it's very good to get these guys like first-hand thoughts about how they did it. Disney and Pixar art of books. These ones, the landscape art of books. Uh, they always kind of leave me wanting more. I really wish they'd have like a wider range of work in them. They tend to only really show the early concept against the final frame, with not much production art in between. So for me, they kind of fall short as inspirational art books, and also they're not really educational. Um, unless you're a concept artist, and you're studying the paintings by yourself. That's got to be E tier for me. Even if a lot of the art is very nice, get them if you just want to see the art, but I wouldn't say they're really required reading. Yeah, unfortunately, I think that the Viz Media Studio Ghibli books kind of fall short for the same reason. They tend to just show early watercolors and then the final frame. I like some of them, and there are other Ghibli art books that I like, but once again, you might not learn that much from them. Bridgman's Constructive Anatomy. Uh, this is another well-regarded classic. I think it's often the first figure drawing book that people get recommended. Um, I'm not so sure about it though. I couldn't really get into it as a beginner, and I had to come back to it a few years later. Uh, Maybe skim it to get the concept of wedging and check out the section on hands. But I think that the information in it, the core concepts of it have been reinterpreted just better and clearer by other people like Proco. Maybe it's more of a library borrow than a buy. So it's going to be C tier for me. Ken Holtzgren's The Arts of Animal Drawing. This one's going right up into S tier for me. I think it's super useful, it's super practical, it's accessible at different levels, and also it's short too. I still use it all the time, and it's one of the books here that I actually do not think would be better off as a video. I only wish that there were more different kinds of animals in it, like birds and reptiles. But yes, very, very good. The Animator Survival Kit, the big boy. Okay, so the Animator Survival Kit is going in A for me. I know that some people don't like the anecdotes or don't like that there is a standard textbook for animation in the first place. I think that Richard Williams did a really brilliant job of condensing really complicated concepts and presenting them in a way that can be applied to many different styles. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for gathering up information from the generation before himself, which otherwise might have been lost. It's super comprehensive, and I think it is the best book for animated movement. The principal concepts from the book, it's really the language that we still use every day at work. That's how we describe what we're doing. So the only reason that it's not an S tier is because the app version is better. It just makes a lot more sense to have the diagrams be animated and for you to be able to frame through them. If you can get it that way, then I would definitely recommend it. Personally, I think the publishers should take the material from the book, the app, DVD, whatever, and just find different ways of repackaging it. Eric Goldberg's character animation crash course. This one, also an A tier for me, is much shorter, smaller, more concise and targeted than the Animator Survival Kit. It's very practical, well presented. So if you do end up skipping Survival Kit, at least get this one. Preston Blair cartoon animation. I think the classic Preston Blair book, or at least the most common edit that you can get now, maybe a B tier for me. It really shaped how I draw. The construction technique, do the little ball with the lines wrapping around it, and I still like drawing those round 1940s style characters. Things like this well-known page on Line of Action are really great, and it was one of the first points of reference when we were doing Cuphead. What holds it back for me is that I think the information on actual animation movement is just covered better in the previous two books. And I also think that he sped through a lot of topics without enough explanation. For example, perspective is covered in 2 pages. That barely introduces the concept and, it doesn't tell you how to do it. There are diagrams like this, and the text is just kind of like, study this. When I was a teenager, I didn't know how to study drawing. I didn't know what I was looking for. So, yeah, I didn't really take it in. Force. I think Force is a B too. I like that it's concise and it's focused on just 1 or 2 concepts. So, you'll get what you came for. It's good. This one, Drawing Lessons from the Great Masters, is maybe a C or a D. It's not essential at all, but it is kind of cool. It's not a tutorial book. It's more like there's a drawing on one page, and beside it there's some text about cool things to appreciate about the drawings. So yeah, maybe a library borrow rather than a buy, but still good, still useful. How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. Okay, there's a lot of similarly titled books out there, so you need to make sure you get the right one with this. I think it's B, almost A. I wish that I'd had it when I was younger. You'll get introduced to things like gesture, perspective, and construction. So I think it's kind of a sibling of the Preston Blair book. Very nice. Just some bits of the text are a bit corny. The Noble Approach. Alright, so Noble Approach is an easy S tier. It's very, very good. Color, composition, all that sort of stuff is very nicely put together here. And, it's not just for if you want to do Looney Tunes style. Yeah, very good. S tier. The Art of Animation Drawing by Don Bluth is unfortunately an F. I had this when I was a student, and I did not get what I wanted from it at all. I wanted to learn how to follow model sheets, maybe a bit about cleanup, consistency, that sort of thing. Instead, it's just like a general, simplified overview of how animated films were made at the time. The sort of information you can get from watching any making of thing. Glenn Vilpo's drawing manual, maybe a B or C. I love Vilpo's approach, and I learned a lot from him. However, I think the videos are better. It's useful to actually watch the movements that his hands make when he draws. And also, the book is pretty expensive now. Drawing on the right side of the brain, workbook version. So here I'm specifically talking about the workbook version. I'd put it maybe in D or maybe C on a good day. I'd say it's maybe worth doing the exercises during year 1 of drawing. But if you're already intermediate at all, maybe skip it. And yeah, definitely skip the non-workbook version. Understanding comics. It's not exactly an animation book, but I do think that it is an A. I would recommend it for any student. I really got a lot out of it, and it's in comic form, so it's a quick read. It's maybe more theoretical than practical, but I included it here because I just wanted to recommend it. Okay, there's more out there, but I'll just stick with these as the ones that are kind of widely recommended or ones that I have opinions about. So for example, I'm not going to rank figure drawing for all it's worth, because to be honest, at the time when I read it, it was just way too advanced for me, and basically I didn't read it again. So I can't really form an opinion about it. There's a lot of other books out there that look really good, and I just have not read them. All in all, I think that generally video tutorials and online courses have kind of taken over from drawing books, and many of them are basically better. Especially for animation and gesture drawing, it's just better suited to video by nature. If it was not for copyright issues, I think it would be good to make video versions of a lot of these books. Okay, so yeah,